Imagine a crowded room, the air thick with chatter, laughter echoing off the walls. You're there, physically present, but a strange sense of detachment washes over you. It's not that you dislike these people. It's something else. It's the way they talk, the things they find important, the conversations that seem to orbit around trivialities while the profound and the obvious are left untouched, hanging unspoken in the air. You see solutions they miss, connections they overlook, patterns they're blind to, and it's not arrogance, it's simply clarity. A clarity that, in this moment, feels less like a gift and more like a pane of glass separating you from genuine connection, from true understanding. Have you ever felt this peculiar isolation, this subtle dissonance between your inner world and the social symphony around you? Have you ever sensed that your mind, wired for insight, for depth, for piercing through illusions, operates on a different frequency than the world at large? If this resonates, if you've ever felt this quiet separation, then you've stumbled upon something significant. This isn't just another piece of feel-good advice. It's an exploration into a strategy, a mindset, a way of being that could fundamentally alter how you navigate the complexities of human interaction. So, before we delve deeper, if you're ready to understand this subtle power, if you're tired of feeling like your clarity is more of a curse than a compass, then take a moment now. Hit that subscribe button and stay with me, because what we're about to uncover isn't for everyone. But if you're feeling this subtle disconnect, this is definitely for you. Let's journey together into this fascinating and often counterintuitive realm. Think of Liam, a young artist brimming with unconventional ideas. In critiques at art school, his interpretations were always different, deeper perhaps. He saw layers of meaning others missed, symbolism woven into brushstrokes, emotions echoing in color palettes. But his insights weren't celebrated. They were met with furrowed brows, dismissive shrugs, a subtle but palpable chill of discomfort. His originality, meant to illuminate, felt like a spotlight exposing others' limitations. His interpretations, meant to enrich, felt like criticisms of their own simpler perspectives. One afternoon, during a group critique of his latest painting, a piece pulsating with raw emotion and complex symbolism, a professor, a well-respected figure in the art world, declared, with a dismissive wave of his hand, "Liam, it's too much, too clever perhaps. Sometimes simplicity is strength." Too clever? Was depth, was insight truly a weakness? This question, laced with a subtle sting of rejection, echoed in Liam's mind. Was his very capacity to see beyond the surface a hindrance, a social liability? Liam's experience isn't unique to the art world. It's a reflection of a deeper current in human interaction, a dynamic that philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, a master observer of human nature, articulated with unflinching honesty centuries ago. Schopenhauer, a thinker who dared to dissect the often unpleasant realities of human motivation, unveiled a profound and often unsettling truth. In the intricate dance of human relationships, raw, unfiltered intelligence isn't always a strength. In fact, it can morph into a subtle form of social handicap, isolating you, hindering your influence, even painting a target on your back. What you perceive as clear as day can feel like a blinding sun to others, casting stark shadows on their own perceived inadequacies. What to you is simple, elegant logic can feel like a sharp, icy blade, piercing through their carefully constructed self-esteem. Because truth, when delivered unadorned, without tact, without the delicate veil of social deception, it often feels like a personal humiliation. And let's be brutally honest with ourselves. Most people aren't on a relentless quest for truth. They're seeking something far more primal, far more emotionally driven. They're seeking validation, comfort, a sense of belonging. They want to feel good about themselves, even if that feeling is built on a foundation of comfortable illusions. Pause for a moment and reflect. How many times have you articulated something undeniably true, a simple, logical observation, and been met not with agreement, not with understanding, but with a subtle resistance, a quiet disapproval? a barely perceptible social chill. How often have you offered a helpful correction, shared a valuable insight, only to be met with resentment simmering beneath a veneer of politeness instead of the gratitude you might have expected? It's a perplexing, almost paradoxical, dynamic, isn't it? It's as if your very clarity, your very insight, is perceived as a subtle form of social aggression. This, then, is the core of the dilemma. Intelligence displayed without nuance, without control, without strategic awareness, often ignites envy, generates rejection, and breeds discomfort in those around you. And herein lies the fundamental mistake of those who naively believe that knowledge alone equates to power. Simply knowing isn't enough. You must master the art of how to deploy your knowing. You must learn to wield your intelligence not as a blaring trumpet announcing your arrival, but as a silent, precise weapon, used with discernment and strategy. Schopenhauer, in his profound and often cynical wisdom, termed this subtle art the art of pretending to be a fool. And it's crucial to understand. This isn't about becoming a fool, about diminishing your intellect, about embracing ignorance. Far from it. It's about recognizing that there are moments, pivotal junctures in social dynamics, when strategically appearing less than you are is not a sign of weakness, but the mark of a true master. It's not about renouncing your intelligence. It's about strategically channeling it, like a seasoned general maneuvering troops on a complex battlefield. Want genuine respect, not fleeting admiration? Don't boast. Want to be truly listened to, not just politely heard? Don't constantly correct. Want to wield real influence, not just intellectual dominance? Don't intimidate with the sheer force of your intellect. Instead, learn to subtly guide, to gently nudge, to artfully allow others to believe they've arrived at the truth independently. Let them bask in the warm glow of their own perceived insight, even if you were the silent architect of that very realization. Take a moment to observe the world around you. Study those who truly ascend in any field, those who wield genuine power, those who subtly shape the currents of society. Are they invariably the most overtly, demonstrably intelligent individuals? Rarely. More often, they are those who have mastered the intricate, often unspoken language of human relationships. They are masters of nuance, of subtle implication, of the power of silence, of the art of unspoken understanding. They intuitively grasp that truth, while valuable in itself, can be a double-edged sword in the delicate ecosystem of social interaction. They understand that the envy of the mediocre, the resentment of those less insightful, can coalesce into an almost insurmountable barrier, blocking progress, stifling innovation, and isolating those who dare to shine too brightly. Think of the seasoned diplomat, not necessarily the most brilliant orator, but adept at navigating complex political landscapes, knowing precisely when to speak volumes with a carefully chosen silence. Think of the visionary CEO, who makes their team feel empowered and intelligent, even as they subtly guide the entire company toward their strategic vision. These are the subtle practitioners of Schopenhauer's art, whether they are consciously aware of it or not. This strategic approach, this art of pretending to be a fool, isn't about diminishing your true self, about shrinking into the shadows of mediocrity, or about abandoning the very intellect that defines you. Quite the opposite. True, profound intelligence isn't squandered in petty arguments, in ego-driven skirmishes to assert intellectual dominance. True intelligence recognizes the immense strategic value of silence, the quiet power of discretion, the artful mastery of timing. It inherently understands when to unleash its full, dazzling force, and equally importantly, when to strategically feign simplicity, when to illuminate with brilliant clarity, and when to remain deliberately shrouded in shadow. Imagine yourself in a meeting, a brainstorming session, a casual conversation, and someone voices an idea that is, frankly, monumentally, almost comically, foolish. Your intellectual instinct, honed by years of critical thinking, screams at you to correct them, to dismantle their flawed logic, to expose their ignorance with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. But pause. Take a breath. Think, not react. What is the true utility of such a correction? What do you genuinely gain from publicly dismantling their flawed idea? Will you, in that moment, truly and profoundly change their mind? Almost certainly not. Far more likely, you will awaken a potent cocktail of resentment, defensiveness, and a deep-seated aversion to feeling intellectually inferior in front of their peers. Because no one, absolutely no one, truly relishes the sensation of feeling foolish, of having their intellectual shortcomings publicly exposed. No one willingly embraces the uncomfortable reality of being definitively, undeniably wrong. So, instead of the sharp, ego-driven correction, try a subtle, almost imperceptible smile, a gentle, non-committal nod. Let the conversation gently drift onward, like a leaf on a slow-moving stream. Not because you are a coward, shrinking from intellectual honesty or avoiding necessary confrontation, but because you are wise. Because you understand that not every intellectual misstep demands immediate correction. Not every instance of ignorance necessitates immediate illumination. Sometimes, the most strategically powerful and ultimately most effective move is to simply allow the other person to gently and undisturbed sink a little deeper into their own comfortable sea of ignorance. Schopenhauer articulated this dynamic with characteristic, almost brutal clarity. Fools have an advantage over the intelligent, not because they are inherently better, but simply because the world, in its often unspoken social contracts, is largely designed and often unconsciously governed by and for them. Society, in its vast, complex, and often illogical workings, often implicitly favors mediocrity. Mediocrity is comfortable. It's predictable. It doesn't challenge the status quo. It doesn't represent a perceived threat to the fragile egos that populate every level of social hierarchy. The mediocre, by their very nature, tend to coalesce, to group together for mutual validation and support, to protect each other within their comfortable sphere of shared understanding, and to rise collectively within their own self-contained ecosystem of, well, comfortable mediocrity. Meanwhile, the truly brilliant mind, the individual blessed, or perhaps cursed, with exceptional insight, if they fail to learn the subtle, strategic art of handling their own intellect with cunning and care, can often find themselves paradoxically isolated, marginalized, profoundly misunderstood, constantly knocking on doors that remain stubbornly and inexplicably closed. This is the often harsh reality, the subtle but powerful social gravity that tends to pull down those who dare to shine too brightly, too carelessly, too directly in a world that often prefers the dimmer, more comfortable glow of shared mediocrity. But here's where the real transformative game truly begins. You don't have to become part of that mediocrity. You don't have to permanently dim your own inner light. You don't have to engage in a futile, exhausting, and ultimately pointless head-on battle against the pervasive tide of mediocrity that surrounds you. There exists a subtle, strategic middle ground, a delicate balance point, a sophisticated social dance. Learn to strategically pretend ignorance when necessary. Master the art of playing with others' often limited expectations. Allow them to comfortably believe that you are, perhaps, just a little less insightful, a little less perceptive, a little less threatening than you truly are. Only to then, at the precisely chosen moment, surprise them, subtly unleash your true capacity, reveal your genuine brilliance when they least anticipate it, and, crucially, when it truly matters most. History itself is replete with compelling examples of this strategic approach in action. The greatest strategists in any field, from military command to business innovation, have almost never revealed their full hand, their complete strategic arsenal, right from the outset. The most skilled players in any arena, be it business negotiation, artistic creation, or even the subtle games of social influence, rarely, if ever, show all their cards up front, preferring the subtle power of strategic reveal. Think of Napoleon Bonaparte, a master of military and political deception, frequently underestimated by his adversaries until it was irrevocably too late. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, whose boundless genius was often strategically cloaked in a veneer of seeming simplicity and approachable accessibility. Think of Nikola Tesla, who operated for much of his career in the shadows of the scientific establishment, quietly revolutionizing the world with his inventions while others clamored for the fleeting spotlight of public recognition. They all, in their own unique ways, intuitively understood and masterfully employed the quiet power of discretion, the subtle art of intelligent manipulation of perception, the strategic brilliance inherent in sometimes pretending to be less in order to ultimately achieve far, far more. Because here lies the often unspoken but brutally effective rule of the social jungle. If the world around you perceives you as too brilliant, it will, often unconsciously, attempt to extinguish your light. If they perceive you as too wise, they will, often subtly, try to humble you, to bring you down to their level of comfortable understanding. If you habitually display the full force of your intelligence without filters, without strategic awareness, without the subtle art of social camouflage, they will almost inevitably turn against you. And this is not because you are inherently bad, not because you are demonstrably wrong, but because the often fragile human ego, in its deeply ingrained insecurity, frequently cannot comfortably tolerate the perceived intellectual superiority of others in its immediate social sphere. It's a primal, often unconscious reaction, a deeply ingrained defense mechanism against the uncomfortable feeling of being intellectually diminished in comparison. But if instead you learn to play with cunning, if you master the subtle art of dosing your intellect strategically, if you learn to artfully present yourself as someone accessible, someone non-threatening, someone perhaps even a little bit ordinary, then you subtly gain a profound form of social control. No one will truly see you coming. No one will consciously perceive you as a threat to their own fragile ego. And when the right moment finally arrives, when the stakes are at their absolute highest, when it truly, deeply matters, you will be strategically positioned to unleash your full, unbridled intellectual capacity, your undiluted brilliance, without encountering the usual social resistance, without facing the insidious forces of subtle sabotage, and with the maximum possible impact on the situation at hand. This is not cowardice. It is strategic wisdom. This is not deception motivated by malicious intent. It is strategic self-preservation, and ultimately, a far more effective pathway to wielding genuine and lasting influence in a complex and often ego-driven world. Do you truly desire to know the often unspoken but absolutely essential key to not just surviving, but genuinely thriving in a world where mediocrity often and often unconsciously sets the prevailing social rules? Learn the profound power of strategic silence. Master the subtle art of social disguise. Learn to move within the shadows of social perception when strategically necessary, and to shine with deliberate brilliance only when it truly strategically matters. Uncontrolled intelligence, flaunted without discernment, is often a curse, a burden, a social liability. But intelligence wielded with precision, managed with strategic awareness, deployed with deliberate subtlety, becomes, without question, the most potent and versatile tool you can possibly possess. So, the next time you find yourself in a crowded room filled with the blissfully ignorant, the next time you are engaged in a conversation with individuals who are demonstrably unprepared for the raw, unfiltered force of truth, consciously remember this fundamental principle. You don't have to constantly prove anything to anyone. You don't have to win every single argument that presents itself. You don't have to feel compelled to correct every single minor mistake you encounter. Only fools, driven by fragile egos and a desperate need for constant validation, make the amateur mistake of expending their precious energy in relentlessly striving to showcase their intellectual superiority at every possible moment. The truly wise, the strategically intelligent, learn to play a much longer, much more subtle, and far more effective game. They play with time itself, with the shifting tides of social perception, and with the quiet, often underestimated power of patience. Pretending to be less than you truly are is not, in any meaningful sense, a betrayal of your own intelligence. It is, in many crucial social situations, the brightest, most strategically astute move you can possibly make. If this message resonated with you, if you found value in understanding this strategic approach to intelligence, then hit that like button and subscribe for more content designed to elevate your thinking and your approach to the world. Share your thoughts below in the comments. What are your experiences with this? Thank you for investing your time in this exploration. Until the next video.